by the way, food is outstanding at these events. I like, all right, you guys know I'm not a small guy, so I do like to eat. 2, probably shouldn't eat as much as I do. But 3, outstanding food. His mom and them put together just absolutely a great time. So if you guys get a chance, do his event.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
They'll appreciate that for sure.
Oh, yeah, just salt of the earth people. So yeah, no, it's fantastic. It was great. I'm bummed because I had to leave, obviously, because Cap was not necessarily in the greatest condition to continue. So
we were hoping you would get home.
Yeah. You know, and I ended up. It's funny that you bring that up. I was concerned because it's 400 or 500 miles to get back to my place, right? And especially where we were at, and. After all that, and I didn't really notice, obviously, because we were parked in the grass that night before I got up to leave the next morning, and I didn't even realize that I had some leaking of oil, because when I got back home, I parked the bike, and nothing ever registered like low oil, nothing registered like engine overheating or anything like that on my way home. And the other thing I was always concerned about was if the bike was going to shimmy or whatever, because then I knew the frame or something was messed.
Right. Yeah.
But I got home from 400 or 500 miles. I figured it survived somehow, some way. And I will tell you, there's one reason why it survived. And I thank Kurt at Black Dog for this. But I'll get into that. But I will say that I got back, and when I parked it that night in my garage, the next morning there was oil that had dripped onto the ground. So I knew there was something, and all it was the header, on that boxer, had been loosened or whatever. But Black Dog makes cylinder covers, and then they make bars that kind of go through the middle of the bike, and the 2 bars kind of brace against one so that it doesn't collapse in. The only reason why my bike survived. Absolutely the only reason why. Because you saw I don't think you saw it actually, the area where I was at, but the pictures, there's a chunk of a tree missing. That's where that front my crash guard hit. It actually bent the crash, but I think because I had those extra braces there, if that wouldn't have been there, I think my engine would have been destroyed right there on the impact.
I would say so. Yeah. That was a big chunk. I remember seeing it.
It was crazy anyway. So I didn't, oh my God, you're making me relive all of it. Flashbacks. So you had roughly 8 people, right? Besides you and
me and my sweet buddy OGB.
Yeah. So you had 10 folks on this. So, and that was one event.
Yep.
So was that just 1 year? Did you have another event, or did it mushroom? Did mushroom?
Later that year, I did my first PA Wilds tour, and it was the same concept. I basically invited a specific group, a lot of them from the first group, and a couple newer guys that had asked me about it, the previous one. And I basically, hooked up the same campground that you came to. And
nice campground.
I booked the sites. I told them, come on up. You just got to pay for your own food and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I set up a couple of different loops with my buddy OGB's help, and we took everybody out, and same deal. Had a great time. Everything worked out really well. And that was basically 2019, I think.
Yeah.
That's how we kind of started it. So after that, I had to start okay, I can't just do this for free all the time, so I got to charge a little bit.
Right.
And then over that winter, I ran into my buddy Jim.
Okay.
So Jim, he lives down near Richmond, which is where I had my first April Fool's rally. And he's like, hey, I got property right down by that area. Why don't you just have the thing in my place? So I was like, are you serious? And he was. So he's been the one that has basically hosted the Fool's Ride ever since. So he's got this beautiful property down near Richmond, Ohio. It's pretty close to High River. It's got a huge open area, like 80 acres. He's got a little pond. He's got trails throughout his place. He's got a big old barn that we use for our meeting space.
I haven't been there, but I know last year, I know Chad and some other folks went there.
Chad came over.
And it got pretty cold because we came out of Tellico Plains out in Tennessee, come from March Moto Madness.
Yeah.
Yours was the next weekend. I couldn't make it, but I remember those guys showing pictures of frosted over bikes and everything. It was pretty cold.
That's what we call the Fool's Ride.
Right, exactly.
So
you never know what you're going to get.
The first official Fool's Ride, it was like 70 degrees. And then last year, the second official Fool's Ride, it was like 25 to 45 degrees. Snow, sleet, rain, hail. It was everything. So
now, your friend's property or whatever, which is great. All the riding happens in that 100 acres roughly, or
in that general area. So we cover about 3 counties worth of terrain, about 600 miles worth of routing.
Wow.
So he's a perfect base camp. He's like right in the middle of all of the best riding in that area.
Yeah, some good stuff. So if you guys get a chance to come out, I know it's only a couple months out, and you're sold out though, aren't you? Or no?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Keep it coming.
So you've got. So how many things are you doing now? Like I looked at your website, I couldn't remember. So you got 8, 9 events or more
coming up for this year. Each year we're definitely going to do the Fools Rally.
Right.
That's like kind of the flagship. It's kind of the first big event of the year. PA Wilds Tour will be in October, so that's kind of like get your fall foliage, and we're going to actually stay at the Black Forest Inn, so it's kind of a bit more of a less of a roughing it rally.
Right.
We're also going to do an Allegheny rally, so we're going to do a small scale rally near Marionville.
Okay.
And then I also have built the Allegheny Backcountry Venture Loop, and it's a BDR style ride. It hits a bunch of old historic things like old ghost towns. We hit mom and pop small town stuff like we were talking about before. Bunch of dirt and gravel. And we have an easier version and a harder version. So the easier version, it's all dirt and gravel roads, paved roads. The hard version, we actually do trails.
You're good.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to make sure our batteries are still working. Sorry. Good.
So the harder version, we actually hit about 100 miles worth of trails over the 5 days of the tour.
Okay.
So those are kind of the main events for the year. And then another thing we've added this year, which the first one we did was in October this past year, is beginner to intermediate ADV riding clinics. So we did one in October, had 5 people show up. Everybody had a great time. We just did it for 1 day. So in the morning session, we kind of do like a bunch of drills and skills and go over a bunch of techniques. And in the afternoon, we did like an actual real world ride in that local area by Conneaut Lake. And then we had a couple of drills when we're out there. So we do some hill climbs, and then we do hill climb recovery. And
you looking to expand that a little bit?
Yeah, so this coming year, so far, as of this taping, we have 4 clinics listed. 3 of them, 3 of them are 2-day. Those are all sold out already. Then I have a 1-day early in March that still has a couple of tickets left. And then I think within the next week or 2, I'm going to probably list another 4 to 5 for the second half of the year.
Wow.
So I think we left off, we were talking about training, and you with
doing some clinics.
Yep.
And you were doing 1-day clinics, right? And now you're branching out to do 2-day clinics for beginners and intermediate, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
is that something that, I mean, obviously all I've seen since I've been doing this for 2 years is the growth, phenomenal growth, right?
Yeah.
More and more people want to get off road. More and more people want to at least explore, a little bit more.
Yeah.
So obviously you're finding some interest in what you're doing there, right? So, do you see that being kind of a bigger mix in what you're doing, or like 50-50? What do you think?
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a yes to all.
Yes, it is basically, yes. Since I started riding, being a football coach, I'd coached middle school football for 10 years. I've always had like the training thing. Like when I worked in the laboratory, that's my civilian job, is working in the laboratory. And I always enjoyed like training people. So I always knew that eventually that's somewhere I wanted to take Appalachian ADV.
Really? Okay.
I didn't have a location really to use. I've recently partnered with Street Track and Trail Day Conneaut Lake.
Okay.
Phenomenal mom and pop, dealership.
Right.
We've done some BDR documentaries there. We're going to do more, and they're super interested in like helping me out with this. So we're definitely going to be doing more of those in the future. After being in the ADV community for this long, and going to Whalen Wayne and all these other rallies, like you start to realize that a lot of people, just like you and I, both starting kind of later in life, like maybe you have experience on a dirt bike when you were a kid, or you have experience on a motorcycle on the street, and you want to try to get into the dirt, get into some more off-road type stuff. And I just want to try to help with that. Like I was in that situation myself.
Yeah, so
I kind of know what it takes to kind of get through that.
Yeah, so it's about giving back to the community, right? It's kind of like, hey, I saw a need, something that I saw as something that I needed, and then the other thing that I find is that although you can go to the MOAs, you can go to all these different places, but I don't find a lot of people in this Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Appalachian area, this neck of the woods in the Midwest. You don't find a lot of training in this part of the country. Like, we talked about our buddy Tom Asher, right? He does some stuff down in Indiana next to Cincinnati, down that way, down by me. But there's not really anybody up in this neck of the woods that's doing some training.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because, again, the community just continues to keep growing.
Yeah.
And, with the advent of, and then I think the other reason why it's grown is, I think the last couple of years, right, with COVID and everything like that, and everybody being pent up, everybody wants to get out in nature and do some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And now I think, like, you're seeing all this, like, come about. Like, people want to get out and do some things.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you brought up Whale and Wayne. Like, you do rides for Chad at Whale and Wayne. So if you go to Whale and Wayne, Kane leads every day you lead a ride.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday you lead a ride, and it's a great ride. So again, he takes you from a little bit of, I would call, more beginner intermediate to intermediate heavy. Like you're not getting craziness, but you're also not just going to be on a bunch of just gravel roads the whole time. You're going to face some challenges here and there, and I like that about your trip.
I try to give every ride that I do. I try to give a good mixture of everything. Right. So a nice twisty road to a nice dirt and gravel road to some type of trail thing.
Yep.
That's maybe optional on some of the rides, so you don't have to do the trails.
No, that's great. So that's cool. You got a lot of stuff. I mean, to think about this, you did this in 19.
Yeah.
It's 23. It's not even 23. I mean, we're barely
just
into
started,
20, right?
Yeah.
So you got 3 years into this. You've got multiple clinics. You've got multiple events going on.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about the quality of what you do, right? At least to me it does. I mean, I've experienced this, so I know, I see that. I think, between the venues, the quality, the making yourself available, I think it's fantastic that you're doing this type of stuff. And for those that don't know, Kane, you were also in the military as well, right?
Yeah, Air Force.
You were Air Force for how long?
I was active duty for about 5 years, and I retired from the reserve after about 20 years and maybe 4 or 5 months.
Wow. Yeah, so those that don't know, maybe my son's in the Air Force, so we've talked about that a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's enjoying himself in Germany right now.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, so again, another military person, and that we thank you for your service, by the way. But so I all that's going on. Obviously, you've got kids. You got at least one. How many you got kids? Huh?
I have 2.
You got 2. That's right. Okay, my bad. And so now you started roughly about 10 years ago riding. Now you got your Tenere. Have you thought about any other bikes, by the way?
I can't think of any other bike that I would want to ride, man.
But your Tenere.
Oh, I love that thing.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to have you ride my 660 Tour.
I do want to take you up on that. Yeah.
I'm bringing it to April. I'm bringing both my bikes up there.
Nice.
So you can ride it one day. So. Nothing against a couple of people out there that I think would probably maybe see this that might argue about that Tenere. So just FYI. No. But so you love your Tenere.
I love it, yeah.
You gonna get a new one? Was it the World, what do they call it?
World Rated?
World Rated? You think about maybe upgrade?
Maybe eventually, yeah. I'm really starting to feel the groove with what I got.
Yeah.
I've got so many add-ons to it, like, it's just where I want to be now.
Isn't it like, so... I've had quite a few people bust my chops about riding the Big Pig. 21 GSA, 600-pound behemoth, right?
It's a beautiful bike.
It is, and as much as I've done to that bike, and again, you've seen some of this.
You know how it feels. You know how it sounds. There's a connection. I think every rider that rides, kind of like we have been trying to, you get this connection to that bike.
Right.
You know how it feels and sounds, the torque, everything.
Right.
And you just get into that zone with it easier and easier every time you do it. And the more you push yourself, the better you get at it. So like, it's hard for me to want any other bike besides that right now.
That's such a true statement. It's unbelievable what you just said there. That's crazy. What else would you leave us with? I mean,
I think just in general, like, and you know, watching some of your videos and being able to meet you and ride, like, it's never too late to try something new.
Right.
Like, I want people to kind of like disconnect a little bit from like the phones and from the, come out, have a great adventure, challenge yourself, figure out a little bit more about yourself. I think the best way to do that is, it doesn't have to be a motorcycle. Like, that's what I like. So I want people to kind of share in that with me. Like, find something that challenges you, go at it, fall a bunch of times, pick yourself up, drag your bike out of a freaking ditch or a cliff.
Not that we know that.
Yeah. And like, disconnect a little bit. Like, and I think there's a thing about like how America is right now. Everything's so divided. I think if you look back in history, everybody in history will say the same thing. And the best way to get past some of that is to find some common ground. If you love motorcycles, come out, have a ride. You might meet people that you never would have talked to before.
Oh, you know, Chad and I talked about that. And if you didn't see the last interview, Chad and I talked about that. It's about the people that you meet in this in the community.
Yeah.
There, I will say that Tim, Tim, who I rode with, right? He and I probably would have never crossed paths ever in our lives, and we have become super, great friends. And but it is amazing to your point, the camaraderie that you share. Those times that you're sitting around the campfires or the meals in the morning or whatever, that of getting to know people, and it's different walks of life like that. When I was there with you in Pennsylvania, the people that you meet, and I think that's and you, what you're doing, you're meeting everybody.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I love it. I think it's.
I think it's hard for me to say 100%, but like out of all motorcycle riding, I think like adventure dual sport riding, I think it helps break down the most barriers, because you're going through something. And like for my thing, we're in groups, like it's a rally or a tour, and our group is going through a bunch of crazy stuff,
right?
Like a bunch of hard things. And that breaks down a lot of barriers and lets you kind of open up and just talk about
stuff.
Anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be anything in particular, just being able to like break barriers and just be Americans and kind of
that's awesome.
Be there. That's it.
Well, anything else that you got for me?
I think so. Just come out to one of my events, man.
That's always a good one. All right. So
one, I want to say thank you very much. This has been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time and contributing, your insights and stuff like that. But I think the more valuable thing here for at least the folks that subscribe to me is that they get a chance to see that there are other people out here that are doing these things, and people that care, the people that are putting their effort into it. And it's folks, I can't say this enough. I know that everybody beats up on these events and stuff, and they're just making money. They're not. These are things that are being put together. There's costs in doing these things that they're trying to provide a service and try to provide the best experience, right, for the people that are spending their hard-earned money, right? So it's not about that. It's about the experience that you're getting and being able to contribute back to the community. And that's what I find that you're trying to do inside the ADV world, is to
give back. And I think that's fantastic. So that one died. We're going to keep on this one, so I don't need to worry about the other one. So thank you. Appreciate your time. And that's about it, man. I can't say much more, but I've only known you for what, a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even maybe a year?
Yeah, about a year.
About a year?
So,
yeah. So it's crazy to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the friendship, relationships that you build in this thing, and I think it's awesome. So
you can meet the best people on an adventure bike, man.
And you go from a 650 to the Tenere, and you'll never leave the Tenere. So, all right, but you are going to try my touring.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks a lot,
appreciate it. Thank you, Kane. Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
All right, folks. That's it. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.